Could DJI actually launch a 360 drone any day now? Today, we're breaking down the latest Avata 360 leaks, why the FCC filing makes this feel real, and the one US deadline that could change everything. Stick around. The regulatory bit at the end is the plot twist that will decide if this thing lands in your hands or stays stuck overseas. On paper, this is ambitious. Leaks point to dual 1x1.1-inch CMOS sensors in a twin-lens housing, which is the kind of hardware that could deliver serious low light and dynamic range in full spherical capture. Rumored headline numbers: native 8K 50 frames per second spherical video, 4K at 120 frames per second for silky slow motion, and 38 megapixel stitched panoramas. Think about it. One flight capturing everything around you so you can reframe later for social verticals, cinematic widescreens, or VR. For creators who hate reshoots, that's a huge time saver. But quality depends on stitching and stabilization, and DJI will need top-tier image processing to make those overlapping frames disappear. Battery specs from the filing show a 38.67 watt-hour pack at 14.32 volts, roughly 26% more capacity than the Avatar 2. That suggests longer flights or more headroom for power-hungry 8K recording. Transmission rumors point to OcuSync 4.0 with up to 20 kilometers range under ideal conditions. Sensors for safety are also upgraded. 4 front-facing and 2 side sensors for obstacle avoidance and better subject tracking. In short, this looks built to do fast, creative flights while keeping footage usable and usable in post. Here's where the dream meets real life. 8K, spherical at 50 frames, generates enormous files, and stitching high-resolution outtakes requires powerful machines and lots of storage. Expect enterprise-level bitrates, heavy CPU and GPU use, and a steep learning curve for clean reframing. If you plan to use this for real estate, VR, or cinematic third-person shots, budget for fast cards, a roomy SSD workflow, and an editing rig that does color grading and object-aware stitching well. Also, check how DJI's apps will export vertical and portrait crops natively. No black bars, please. Now the part that could wreck the timeline. The Avata 360 just showed up in an FCC listing, which usually means a launch is close. But there's a US policy deadline on December 23rd that could block new DJI models unless specifically approved. Translation: DJI might rush to get stock into US channels before that date, or it might skip a US launch entirely. If you live in the US and were planning to buy day one, this is the variable that matters more than specs. Availability, warranty coverage, firmware updates, and official support could all be affected. So what should you do? If you need 360 airborne capture for client work and can risk regional uncertainty, keep an eye on official retailers and consider pre-orders that include return policies. If you're in the US and rely on manufacturer support, you might want to wait 72 hours after launch to see how the regulatory situation shakes out. For hobbyists, the Avata 360 will be thrilling, but be prepared for larger storage bills and a steeper post-production pipeline. Either way, this is the closest thing yet to a mainstream 360 drone, and if DJI nails stitching and stabilization, it could outclass current competitors. So, are you excited or cautious? Would you buy a 360 drone on day one, or wait to see real footage and regional support? Drop your thoughts below. I read every comment. What if DJI made the pocketable drone you actually want to take everywhere? Today we're unpacking the Neo 2 to see whether it fixes the original Neo's annoying flaws and becomes the definitive palm-launch drone for casual creators. I'll cover the visible design tweaks, the new dual-axis gimbal and image upgrades, the big leap in obstacle sensing, flight behavior and battery realities, plus pricing and who should buy it. Stick around. The obstacle avoidance section is the part that turns a clumsy toy into something you can trust in real environments. The Neo 2 keeps the familiar Whoop style but feels more considered. It is roughly 151 grams without the transceiver and about 160 grams with it, keeping it under the key registration limit in many countries. DJI trimmed weight, tightened joints, added a small front display, and introduced a rear transceiver pod on certain versions that enables remote controllers and headsets. The propeller guards are still integrated, which keeps it safe for busy public shoots, and the little front display finally replaces confusing icons with readable telemetry. These are subtle changes, but they matter when you're shooting fast and do not want to fumble for your phone. Image hardware looks similar on paper but behaves better. The Neo 2 reportedly runs the same 12-megapixel 1/2-inch sensor, but now uses a mechanical 2-axis gimbal instead of a single-axis mount, paired with rock-steady electronic stabilization and improved processing. That combo keeps horizons level during aggressive moves and gives you smoother pans and tilts without heavy cropping. Video options move up too, with higher frame rate modes that make slow motion useful rather than gimmicky. In practical terms, footage looks cleaner and more usable straight out of the drone, which is exactly what casual creators need. This is the Neo 2's headline. DJI added omnidirectional sensing with a mix of vision sensors, forward-facing LiDAR, and downward infrared detection. Where the original Neo could be crash-prone in automated modes, the Neo 2 reads its surroundings and avoids obstacles proactively. Forward sensors detect objects at distances useful for higher speed flight, while other sensors handle close-in maneuvers. For beginners and travelers, that means fewer heart-stopping moments and less dependence on manual control. If crash risk was your main hesitation with the Neo, this change alone makes the Neo 2 feel like a different class of product. In the air, the Neo 2 feels calmer and more mature. The upgraded motors and tuned flight controller resist wind better and hover with less twitch. You can fly controller-free with the handy front display and 3 side buttons, or bring in the DJI Fly app for more precise inputs, or use an RC controller where available. The optional transceiver expands compatibility with DJI accessories, but is not required for standard operation. Flight time still trends toward short sessions, so multiple batteries remain a sensible purchase. But improved efficiency means more useful airtime per battery than before. The Neo 2 launches in tiered packages: a base drone option, a Fly More combo with extra batteries, and a motion combo that adds a motion controller and immersive headset adapter. The price increased modestly versus the original Neo, but the added dual-axis gimbal, enhanced sensors, doubled onboard storage, and improved telemetry show clear value. For first-time buyers, the base kit looks compelling. For creators who want longer shoots and more control, the Fly More or Motion bundles become attractive. Also note, DJI's regional availability remains selective, which may affect purchase options in some countries. If you want a truly pocketable drone that produces usable cinematic clips and reduces the chance of accidental loss, the Neo 2 is a meaningful upgrade and a solid buy. If you only need quick social clips and already own the original Neo, it is less urgent, though the better stabilization and sensing are tempting. For travelers, vloggers, and beginners who value one-handed launches and safer automated shots, this is one of the most sensible, affordable options on the market right now. Which feature would push you to upgrade? The dual-axis gimbal, the omnidirectional avoidance, or the motion bundle extras? Drop your pick in the comments, like if this helped, and subscribe for the full footage breakdown and side-by-side comparisons next.